Hi and welcome back. I'm just back down the shed this morning in the 1st of 2024, January 1, 2024, so Happy New Year to everyone. I'm just going to quietly set out the canopy frame. I'm not going to go ahead and put the actual Lexan onto it now, I just want to set it out. The reason being is that allows me to upsize any of the square hollow section rivets that go onto the side of the fuselage on both sides, and the hinge on the right and the door handle on the left all can be upsized now, so I can actually start to disassemble the front end of the aeroplane in preparation to install the fuel tank. So I'm just going to quietly turn the turn the camera around, and we'll go through what I've just quietly done this morning before I start committing to drilling. So 5. Okay, so I've just set this out either side. I've got a small packer in here to represent the Lexan, both front and back. You'll see that there should be on around about 1.5 millimeters, which it is. Lines up with the angle below, and that sits around about 1.5 all the way around. I've got a little packer at the top there. So I'm moving across to here. At the back here, it's a little bit sort of iffy around the back here. Probably when I did that section of the aft fuselage, the tail cone, I probably could have kept that back a little bit further, but I'm just going to have to play around with that. Should be around about 12.7, I think it is, or 12.6 millimeters, which it is. I've got a packer at the top. There it is there. I can now sort of drill through that to get the countersunk nut and bolt through there, and commit to doing the little locating pins in the door now, in the locating pins in the underside of the angle here that goes across the top square hollow section. Now, I was slightly out when I first drilled this. It's not going to make that much difference. When I say slightly out, I've had to pull this angle forward a little bit to give me clearance back here of about 12.7, because there's a small MS screw that goes through there, as well as through the actual windscreen itself, where it joins the angle on this little cover plate here. So there's a screw that goes around here, one there just at the tail end of that, and then all the rest of the machine screws go through this bow as it did for the forward section of the canopy. So I'm happy with that at the moment. So I'm going to just disassemble. So when I go back to this hole that's slightly out, it's not going to make that much of a difference, because I've got to upsize it to whatever size that that pin that goes through there anyway. Now also too, because of the retrofitted handle on this side, if I just pull that out slightly, you'll actually see the hole there, down there. That was for the original set out, according to Sonex. So if you don't install this, that's going to be fine. I'm going to have to move that back to probably that location there. No big deal. I'll just put a rivet in the hole on the other side. You won't even notice it. So that's it. So I'll go around to the other side as well quickly. Now just on this side, I've done the hinge in preparation. It's all worked out fairly good. There's around about a 1.1 millimeter sort of gap there, and the same on the aft end of it. Probably there's one there. So this can all now be. All this can now be. Oh, it's hard to do this. I need an extra hand. All those holes can now be upsized. The hinge itself gets drilled through the top, not through the angle. It just gets drilled through the hinge itself, and this relies on fixing to the hinge through some MS screws through here, and that because that obviously that angle pivots. Can't see my hand. That angle pivots across this way. That allows me to upsize all of this, including the last of the upsizing through the forward spar tunnel. That way I can take all this apart and clear it out so I can start to work in and around the underside of the glare shield, fuel tank, and finalising the instruments. Now, just on the instruments, I've now drawn, you may recall I spoke about having the instruments done in a vector file or a CAD file. I've drawn these in a 3D drawing program, which I have. I've drawn it now to scale. I'll just go into the other side first. I have actually reduced the switching on this side by 1 toggle and placed it on the other side, and we'll go over to that side in a second. So that's now all drawn to scale. The advice of Dan and Gavin, I've moved that across. It works beautifully. I've raised the flap switch upwards. Starter is nicely over there on its right, and the key switch over here. I've just moved, you'll see a small arrow on there. I've got to move this across about 3 mil, just so the cover plate or the escutcheon plate around the key switch doesn't go beyond the confines of the plexiglass or the Lexan or whatever product I'm going to be using for this. So as I said, I've drawn this in. The reason I moved those switches, I just needed a little bit more room here for my wording. So that will say primary ignition, let's just say for an example, with a on. A secondary ignition with an on, and that might be master avionics, or it could be IFS display with an on. And I won't need to put a start on there because it's written on that. That'll have a little arrow and the like, whatever. So just on that side, I'll go into that side in a second. So just on this side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Works perfectly through here. I was so lucky that it ended up even at both ends, and that is our 12 volt charging port and the head unit for the head unit for the nav and comm. Now, what these switches are, so we've got IFS on one side, we've got avionics master, we'll have landing lights, we'll have autopilot on off, we'll have autopilot sort of master switch, we'll have nav lights and strobe, and the last one, it eludes me at the moment what that was, but it's there. Now, when I remove all this canopy off, it allows me to start building behind this section here, just forward of the fuel tank, all of my positioning for the ECB and the like, and that should give me some good indication of how I'm going to have accessibility at the end of the day. I'd much rather do it obviously with all this off. The glare shield will probably be off at that stage as well, so I can build it all. I know where the fuel tank goes. I can probably quietly just position that in spot. So let's just go forward and have a look through here. One other thing, I'm going to be replacing this. I'm just these angles I'm going to get again, and the 2 pieces of the the upper part of the firewall, firewall, yeah. I'm going to get those from Sonex again. I'm not happy with it. I was a little bit out with the positioning of this. I think it was just poorly bent, poorly positioned. I'm going to drill it all out and start again. You know, one went a bit AWOL over here, and I'm just not happy with it. I'm sorry to show you that poor workmanship, but we all make mistakes, and I'm going to fix it up. So, you know, the 2 bits of firewall are going to cost me sort of $40 odd each. This angle's about, actually, so the firewall's about $80 each, I think, and these 4, yeah, so maybe $200-300 in parts. It's called bad luck. So I'm going to busy away now and start with my positioning of the forward windscreen, and sorry, the main windscreen, and we'll see how I go with it. Hi and welcome back. Well, I've completed the bows around the main canopy of the Sonex, and I tell you, it was one hell of a not difficult, but very time-consuming, very awkward job to do. Even if I had an extra pair of hands to help me, I don't think I could have done it any quicker. It's taken me probably on or around about 4.5 hours to do. It was absolutely awkward, and if I recall correctly, Gavin had an equally hard task. A couple of points that I discovered on it. This back bows across here, you have to be 100% accurate. Not that we try not to be 100% accurate. If you're not accurate with these holes that go through the actual rear bow, keep saying bow, you are going to have one hell of a job to get it through. Even if you are right down to the millimeter accuracy to hold that nut on that AN or MS screw that goes through there, that's where it becomes the difficulty. So I've managed to do them both. The fronts are way easier. It's a little bit of a narrower type of bow on there. This one's got a bit of a recess in there. Right here, there's no room to get any type of shifter, socket set or anything on top of that. You've just got to get a very a needle nose pair of shifter. I'll show you the tool I use in a minute to get that done. To tighten it up. The front one is a lot easier. You've got a little bit more of a room in there to do it. So just quickly working my way around. I have got my nominal gap around there on or around about 12.7, I think it is. A little bit, ended up being a little bit wide here. It's probably around about a millimeter too much on that. That's that green packer is a 2mm packer. It should be about 1.5, but I don't really think it's going to be that critical, bearing in mind that it's just the Lexan that goes a bit further out. It's just a dimension that Sonex give you, I guess. So I ended up moving that pin there, not there. I started off doing it there and realized that once this slides forward, once this slides forward, it's going to hit that, so I ended up moving it to over there. That's the original spot for the one on the Sonex, so I've moved it. I'm just going around the other side for a second. Okay, so just around here I've done the hinge, not drilled. The hinge is not drilled through the square hollow section yet, but it's all worked out fairly good. A little bit of a gap. This is just sort of clamped and spot at the moment, but it's a pretty good gap here, pretty good gap there. So I'm happy with that. Everything is worked out really well. These are, as I said, these ones are really simple to do. You can get a shift around those. Just on that tool, this is the needle nose pair of shifter that I've got, and there's just enough room to get those in there and hold it. Doesn't look like it, but trust me, I got it in. And these are the little toggles that I've been waiting for. They finally arrived. I can't remember if it was just, I think it was the Friday just before Christmas. So these, you'll see on here, I've drawn these little hole. That's the diameter for the hole there. It's about 3mm hole. They will go through and do that. So I've bought, I think, 10 or 15 or something like that of it. I just think it's going to add another little bit of a dimension to the Sonex. It'll just make it look a bit more sort of, I don't know, I was going to say professional, but no, a bit more sort of fancy, if you will. So happy with everything I've done. I can now close this off and post it through the week. Hope you enjoyed it. But we now have one canopy bow for the Sonex, all ready for paint and Lexan. Talk with you all soon.